The trade deadline is only 8 days away. So if the New York Knicks are going to make a trade, they need to make a trade right now. There's a lot of different options they could go after. But according to one report, there is a team on the West Coast that the Knicks have interest in because they have a player that the Knicks apparently covet. And that's Houston Rockets forward Tari Eason. We're going to break down the Knicks' interest and if the Knicks can actually trade for him. Because if you guys recall, Houston is one of the teams interested in Quentin Grimes. We're going to break down this and so much more today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. And make sure you have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. The Knicks apparently covet the Rockets forward Tari Eason. Now, honestly, you could ask any team in the league, and they would probably give you the same answer. Would you want to trade for Tari Eason? Do you covet him? Yeah, absolutely. Because if you've watched this kid playing off the bench for the Rockets, when he's playing and healthy, he is a defensive juggernaut. Him under Tom Thibodeau is a match made in heaven. And according to one NBA insider, the Knicks apparently covet him. According to NBA insider David Verts of SNY, he states that the Knicks reportedly covet forward Tari Eason. Houston is one of the teams interested in trading for Quentin Grimes. Going into the report further, this NBA insider notes that New York reportedly covets Tari Eason, but that might take a 1-for-1 with Grimes, leaving them thin at the guard position. However, they could pair that with an Evan Fournier trade to upgrade the backcourt, filling all the holes. It comes to no surprise that the New York Knicks would covet him. And with the Houston Rockets showing interest in Quentin Grimes, that could potentially be a trade target the New York Knicks could want and covet and try to get in a Quentin Grimes trade. The problem is, a lot of people in Houston love and admire and also covet Tari Eason, what he means to that team and his development for that team. And if we're going to trade for him, I don't know if Quentin Grimes, Evan Fournier, and a first-round pick, even 2 first-round picks, would be enough to pry him away from Houston, because that's how good he's looked and that's how much impact he's had. Now, again, it has been reported that the Houston Rockets have shown interest in trying to trade for Quentin Grimes. They're not the only teams on the list that want to trade for Grimes, but clearly there's a connection there. Quentin Grimes, former Cougar, obviously going back to Houston, that would be a story. He fits their young core as well, and even if he doesn't, his value may go up there because he would see more playing time, and he could potentially be used as a trade piece for them down the road. But who would the Knicks really want from that roster besides maybe an Eason? Because if you think about it, they have a lot of good players, a lot of young players, maybe too many young players, and maybe they need to trade a couple of them. Jalen Green is definitely somebody they've been talking about because his season has been up and down. He has had a roller coaster of a season. While sometimes he gives you the best of times, he oftentimes gives you the worst of times. So a lot of Knicks fans have been talking about potentially going after him or potentially Tate over there in Houston. I heard those names and I understand them. But honestly, given how young they are, I don't know if the New York Knicks would want to trade for them because I don't think they would want a project. Eason, however, even though he's young, he is ready already to make an impact. And that's the difference. All of the other guys I mentioned, they're good. They do have an impact. But Eason, if those guys are here, Eason is over here. And he's still young and developing. That's the thing about him. And he's going to get better and better and better each and every season. And if he plays for Tom Thibodeau, I don't know how he could not get better. His defense under Thibs is going to reach elite levels. And him on the New York Knicks would be unstoppable. But I feel like I'm doing a little bit of dreaming here because I don't think a trade like this would happen. Listen, do I want Evan Fournier, Quentin Grimes, and a first-round pick to go to the Rockets so I can get Tari Eason? Absolutely, without question. And I understand what this NBA insider stated here. He stated if the Knicks made that trade, and let's say they tried, and Houston, for some miraculous reason, did a 1-for-1 where Grimes went to Houston and we got Eason, and even we would be light at the guard position, I know for a fact the Knicks would make some type of trade or go to the buyout market and get a type of player to fill that position. So I'm not worried about the New York Knicks having a little bit of a depth problem at the guard position if they made a trade like that. And to the insider's point here, he did mention that the New York Knicks still have Evan Fournier. So if they wanted, they could make a lesser trade and trade Evan Fournier a couple of picks to get another player that's impactful, but maybe still low cost that can help you now and in the future. There's a lot of names on that board there. I'm still going to mention Tyus Jones from the Washington Wizards because for two reasons. He's likely going to be cheaper the closer you get to the trade deadline. Again, 8 days away. The Washington Wizards are atrocious, and that matters. And they're going to have to pay him as well, too. And if they're going to have to pay him, the question comes up. Will they have to do so? Will they want to do so? He's averaging career highs across the board. And if that's the case, will he seek a very high contract? Maybe that's why they want to make the trade. And if you wonder why the Knicks would want to make that trade, he has experience playing under Tom Thibodeau in Minnesota, averaging career highs across the board, comfortable coming off the bench. We saw that in Memphis. And even though we'd have to pay him, I think him playing for a contender team like the New York Knicks in terms of what they're shaping up to be, he might take a price cut. And if he does that, the Knicks might be able to flip him down the road for an even better player or include him in that star or superstar trade that they always want to do. Either way, the Knicks have options. And that's the point here. They have so many options on the board because of what they're doing right now. Winning changes your plans. They are looking like the best team in the league. They are down OG Anunoby. They are down Julius Randle. Isaiah Hartenstein is on a restrictions minutes. And you got Mitchell Robinson still out. All of that. And the Knicks are dominating teams. Blowing out most of their teams. Are the hottest team in the NBA on an 8-game win streak. The Knicks are doing this with the roster they have without making any other moves. That tells me that Knicks culture is real. Next man up mentality is real because whenever somebody else goes out, whoever else steps on that court, they step up, they do exactly what they need to do, they play their role to perfection, and they give the Knicks exactly what they need. And maybe not everybody can fill in for Julius Randle, but collectively, if you step up, you can make magic happen. That's why Dante can go off. That's why Jalen can go off. That's why Precious can go off. That's why the New York Knicks, looking at other players like Tari Eason, makes me think they know exactly what they're doing in terms of the players to target. Because even though you can make the argument that Eason fits every single NBA team, under Tom Thibodeau, a Tom Thibodeau coached Knicks team, I think Eason fits perfectly there as well too. And you could probably ask for no better coach for a young defensive player to be coached by than Tom Thibodeau. So I think perfectly those two would be a match made in heaven. If the Knicks could pull this trade off, Leon Rose would be goated because Grimes for Eason straight up is robbery. Straight up robbery. If the Knicks could do that, absolutely. There is nobody going to say anything about Leon Rose and the job he's doing for this Knicks team. They will praise him now and for years to come if they can do a one-off for Grimes and Tari Eason. I think in order for the Knicks to get Eason, they're going to have to give up a lot more assets. They're going to have to include a lot more first-round picks, likely Evan Fournier as well too, and maybe another player in that deal as well. That's how much the Rockets covet Tyrese Eason. Now, I know the Knicks, Leon Rose, the front office, they also covet him as well too. But unfortunately, when you have another team that already has him and you have to be the team that trades for him, you're going to likely need to give up a lot because there's no reason for them to trade him right now. If anything, it makes sense for him and the Rockets to stay paired together, for him to continue developing with the Rockets under Ime Udoka and see what happens with him and what he gives that Rockets team for the seasons to come. Because I think his development is going to look lethal and he's going to have a significant impact for that Rockets team each and every season because he's already doing it now in limited time because of injury coming off the bench. In my opinion, he should be starting for that Rockets team. That's how good he's looked. And I think he's going to prove that point come next season because you can't stop greatness. When you see it each and every day, each and every night, in practice, on that court, and what he does, the impact that he has, you can't stop it. Maybe sometimes you can make the argument you want to try to hold it back and maybe see what it can do off the bench before you start it. But when you're so good and you're so impactful, at some point you can't deny it. And you're going to have to do what everybody's going to want you to do. Start that man. He's going to get that at some point in time. I believe that. I'm a very big Tari Eason fan. When I heard this report, it made me smile from ear to ear because seeing this report makes me understand that the New York Knicks and their front office know the players they need to go after, know the players they need to target, and know the players that fit here, fit under Tom Thibodeau, fit what the New York Knicks are trying to run. And I understand sometimes it's about a star, an all-star, or superstar, but sometimes it's about fit as well too. And if you get the right players in the right system with the right coach, anything can happen. You want to know how I know that? Look at the New York Knicks right now. Do they have a bona fide top 10 player on their roster? No. Even though you can make the argument that Jalen Brunson is doing his best to crack his way into that lineup. But even though that's the case, they likely don't at this point in time. Yet, they are still number 3 in the Eastern Conference as we speak right now. They look like one of the best teams in the league in 2024. After the OG Anunoby trade, they look dominant. Say what you want to say, but sometimes fit is better than superstar player, especially depending on who that player is. But that's just my opinion on it. And given what's happening with the New York Knicks, clearly they feel the exact same way because they're not in a rush to make a move for a star or superstar. They are waiting and waiting patiently for the player that they want to become available. But what about you guys? What do you think about this report that the New York Knicks covet Tari Eason? Let me know in the comments below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below, and of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.